It's Rush Week, y'all. Happy Rush! I'm scared. I, like many people, have a lot of opinions and assumptions and judgments about sororities and the women in them. But are those correct? Am I wrong about sororities? Are we all wrong about sororities? Let's chat about it. Hello and welcome. My name's Shelby, and I'm getting over being sick, so my voice has a little extra smoky flavor today, so I apologize for that. But on this channel today, I'm going to try and confront my bias, face my assumption, judge my judgment. And the subject today is sororities. It is Rush Week, so you might be seeing sorority content all over your For You page in this coming week. So I thought it was a good idea to talk about sororities. What are they? What are they like? Has society and me judged them fairly or unfairly? Should they even exist? First, you may be asking, especially if you're outside of the United States, what is a sorority? The word sorority comes from the Latin for sister. So a sorority is a sisterhood. It is essentially a club for women. Sorority women have been calling each other sister since 1851, long before some creep co-opted it. So I'll be talking about sororities and also Greek life. Greek life is the term for sororities and fraternities in U.S. colleges and universities. I want to be clear. Greek life, in this sense, has nothing to do with the country of Greece or the people of Greece. It is not their fault. We did this to ourselves. It's called Greek life because the very first fraternity decided to use Greek letters instead of English letters to stand for their motto. So it was just a thing they did to be clever and different. It stuck, and now we are surrounded by Greek letters all the time. Sororities are organizations for women in U.S. colleges and universities. There are some international, but it is primarily a U.S. thing. This is a map from the largest sorority organization, and you can see that they mostly exist in the Midwest, the South, and California. And this is the list of the top 10 schools in the US with the largest Greek life populations, and you can see again, it's the Midwest and the South. There are different types of sororities, we'll talk about them a bit in this video, but the most popular ones, the ones that we see in movies and on social media, and the ones that everyone thinks of are the social sororities. Sororities are large national organizations with individual school chapters. So the largest sorority is Chi Omega. It's a huge organization with individual chapters in 44 states. And I learned that there's a lot more to sororities than this, but what they're known for are big parties at big mansions with lots of drinking and excess and a strong vein of exclusivity. So let's talk about the life cycle of being a sorority girl. What do you have to do to get in? What's it like when you're in it? What's it like when you're out of it? It all starts well before you're in college with prep. A lot of girls who go through sororities spend months before they actually get to college prepping. You're getting letters of recommendations, you're making social resumes, you're filming intro videos, you're curating your social media pages, you're researching sororities and their sisters, and perhaps most importantly, according to social media, you're planning your outfits. So you've done all your prep and you're finally at the college. You are on campus, you're moving into your dorm. It's Rush Week. This is what we see all over social media every August. If you are rushing, if you are trying to get into a sorority, you are called a PNM, a potential new member. And essentially, you're going to go around, you're going to meet all the sororities, see all the houses, meet a million different people. And every day, you are going to make a list of the sororities that you're interested in. And each day, that list is going to get smaller. So maybe you'll start with your top 10. And then you do another day of meeting a bunch of people. And then you narrow it down to your top 5. And then you do another day of events. And then it's down to 3. And then another day of events. And then it's down to 2. While you are doing that, you're narrowing down your choices, the sororities are also narrowing down theirs. So you're picking them, and hopefully they're picking you back. So each day you make a list of the sororities you want to keep talking to, keep exploring, maybe get into, but you only get to go back if they want you back too. You only get to keep going to the houses and meeting people if it's a match, if you both swiped right. And there are a lot of rules with rushing. Rules for the PNMs, the potential new members, and even more rules for the sorority because they are desperately trying to avoid dirty rushing. Dirty rushing is essentially when a sorority tries to go around the rules to entice a certain potential new member. So, extra attention, extra gifts, inside information that'll make them an even better prospective member. So, there are a million rules for sororities during rush, and if you break them, you have to pay a fine. Some of them are just about missing deadlines, but some of them are specific. Let's look at a couple. Rule number 4, active member saying, "See you later" or "See you tomorrow" as a PNM leaves the chapter facility. $15 per occurrence. You can't say "see you later" or "see you tomorrow" because that would imply to the PNM that you're going to put them on their list and that they'll get to come back. Rule number 12, a time gap longer than 20 seconds between potential new member exiting the threshold of the house at the conclusion of the party. $50 for each additional 20 seconds. So sororities have a lot of rules during rush week. Potential new members have some rules during rush week, but some of them are unspoken. If you are going through a competitive rush week without anyone to guide you, you're going to feel incredibly lost. Everyone else has been prepping for months. But if you don't have a family member who was a member, an older friend who went through rush, or God forbid, you don't have a paid consultant, you might be screwed. So you've slowly narrowed down your choices through the week. The sororities have slowly narrowed their choices down to the week. And finally, it's bid day. A bid is an invitation to join a sorority. So everyone who got a bid is gathered together in the quad or in the stadium, and you're given an envelope. And you can't open it until they tell you to, so they count down. And you're wondering what's in there. Is it the sorority you wanted? Is it your second choice? Is it your third choice? And you'll open your envelope and you are either ecstatic because you got an invitation to the sorority that you wanted, or you're desperately trying to hide your disappointment. So you get a bid or an invitation into a sorority and you accept. Congratulations, you are now a pledge. You're not quite a full member yet, but you are a pledge. And here you have even more rules. There are rules about when you can wear the letters, rules about how you have to look, when you can visit the house, when you can't visit the house, how you can interact with the sisters. So you rushed, you got a bid, you've been a pledge for a few months, you're finally being initiated as a full member. You are going to be a real sister. Now, maybe you've heard a lot of weird rumors about what initiation entails. You've heard rumors about weird rituals, blindfolds, being thrown in a river. But most of the time, those rumors are untrue. In the research that I did and the people that I talked to, most of them say there are all these rumors about initiation, but what it ends up being is a slightly awkward, but often very meaningful and wholesome ceremony in the house. My mom was in a sorority in the 80s for about a year, so I talked to her about her experience. And I want to first say that the number one thing she kept saying is that the girls in her sorority were remarkably kind. They were welcoming. They were helpful. They were approachable. The seniors would hang out with the freshmen, and nobody acted like anybody was better than anyone else. My mom went through a pretty serious family tragedy when she was in this sorority and living in the house. And she said that while sorority life wasn't for her, the girls were phenomenally supportive and kind. So I just want to say that. So when my mom went through initiation, she heard all these same rumors. Her school was right by a river. There were all these rumors that you get blindfolded and thrown in a river, that they take you and put you in a van and take you somewhere else. None of those things happened. She said it ended up being just kind of a corny, wholesome ceremony where you had to memorize some mantras or chants. She said the weirdest thing was that they made you take off all your jewelry so that you could put on the letters. And my mom was engaged at the time. She and my dad got married incredibly young. So she was really bothered that she had to take off her engagement ring and give it to someone that she didn't know. But other than that, she said it was just kind of awkward and a little overly serious, but absolutely harmless. They are very secretive, so there's not a lot of pictures of them out there, but here's one picture that I found from the 50s, and here's a more modern one from the 2010s. They look pretty similar. There's chants, there's lining up, there's candles. It's just kind of a harmless little ceremony. So you've been initiated. You're finally a full member. You are a sister. You are a full member of your chapter. Now you have even more rules. This varies wildly from sorority to sorority, My mom's sorority, which was in the 80s, a long time ago, she said there wasn't a lot of rules about what you had to look like or what you had to wear or how presentable you had to be. Generally, you wanted to be a presentable person, but, there weren't any crazy rules. You could relax in the sorority house. And there are lots of sororities where they don't care that much what you look like in the house. It's okay to go to class in your sweatpants. It's okay to go to class in leggings. But there are a lot of sororities where that is not the case.
We weren't allowed to wear denims on game day. And I do remember this. This was basically just to force us to wear a dress. Games were so early though, and nobody wanted to dress up. So the one trick we always used is that we would wear sunglasses all day long during the daytime game. So nobody would do their makeup besides where it showed. We also couldn't have cans or bottles. Because of this, you would see these little white cups around everywhere. A really random rule is that we weren't allowed to wear lanyards. You also weren't allowed to go out to any bars or clubs until initiation, even if you were of age. That meant you could only go to frat houses, but in those frat houses, you weren't allowed to go to the second floor until you were initiated either, and no elevated surfaces. That's not allowed.
Depending on the sorority you're in, your life can be filled with rules. No wet hair in the house. What you can and cannot wear. A lot of academic rules. You have to keep a certain GPA. You might have an insane event schedule where you are desperately trying to find a time to do your homework between parties, and you may be charged fees if you miss any of these events. So you live the rest of your college life in your sorority. Maybe you live in the house, maybe you don't, and you finally graduate and you go off into the world. Now you are an alumna. And yes, I did have to Google which version of that word was correct. It is alumna. Some people stay involved in their sororities after college life. They go to reunions, they stay close friends with their sisters, and some people just kind of move on. There's really no requirements for anything you have to do after college life, but one of the main selling points of a sorority is that you do have all these connections and networking. So a lot of people stay involved in their sorority life because they get connections for their careers. They get social and career advancement out of it. And if you developed any insecurities during sorority life, you get to keep those for life too.
Are you saying you're upset because the reunion went great and your sorority sisters looked wonderful?
Well, of course not, Rose. That would be childish. I am upset because I was not the center of attention and nobody said I was the prettiest.
So that's the life cycle of the sorority girl, from prepping in high school through the rest of your life as a sister. Before we talk about all the different selling points of being in a sorority and why they say you should join, I want to talk about something very interesting: money. The money that flows through sororities is insane. There are millions of dollars going through these individual chapters. And yes, there are adults heading the national organizations, but these individual chapters, they are being run by members. They are being run by 20-year-olds who maybe took Accounting 101.
When I was 19 years old, I was given access to several bank accounts with millions of dollars in them. I remember bringing checks to a bar and having the president, who was also my age, sign the check, and that was all we needed. We would throw an $80,000 party on a Tuesday, not a problem. I used to walk around campus with checks for $500,000 in my backpack. I'm just bopping around the quad with $500,000 in my backpack.
There have been multiple instances of embellishment. There have been multiple instances of embezzlement and money mismanaging, some on purpose and some just because they don't know what they're doing. And outside of the members themselves, sororities have become an entire industry. I mentioned before that there are consultants who are charging thousands of dollars to help you prep to just get into a sorority.
With around 500 clients at about 100 colleges this season. Her coaching packages range from $3,000 to $5,000.
There are also people like videographers. If you see these sorority videos, you might just think, oh, that's cool. It's a college girl with her phone and they're editing it themselves and they're filming it themselves. And sometimes that's the case, but these really fancy professional looking ones, yeah, they're hiring people. There are people whose entire job is just filming sorority videos.
Up in Dallas, Hisu Yang makes a full-time living solely shooting sorority videos across the country.
Welcome to our set.
In a year, he can have up to 12 clients, some of which pay $30,000 to keep him on retainer.
There is an arms race for having the best videos on campus.
There may even be sponsorships. There is some weird stuff going on where there are sorority videos that look like ads. They look like they were either gifted product or paid to promote a product, and they are not disclosing it properly. So if there is gifting and sponsorship happening, I would start to ask where that money's going. Is it going to individual students? Is it going to the chapter? Is it going to the national organization? These questions are kind of important. So let's look at how much it costs for the students. We're going to look at two schools. The first one is the University of Arizona. So right off the bat, it costs $150 to register for Rush. So just to try and get into a sorority, it costs $150. And then if you get into a sorority, if you get a bid, you're going to have to pay per semester. So here are some numbers. For new members with no housing, so you're living in the dorms, you're just paying to be a member, it's going to be between $2,600 and $3,500. So somewhere around $3,000. If you're an active member with housing, so you're living in the sorority house, it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be between $3,800 and $6,500. Now, the website wasn't that clear on what meals are included in this when you pay for housing in the sorority house, but most sorority housing plans do come with at least some meals. So if you're at the University of Arizona and you're living in the sorority house, your housing each semester is going to be roughly between $4,000 and $6,000. So let's look at what it costs to live in the University of Arizona dorms. This is the housing that's available to non-sorority members. They have 3 tiers of housing, which I assume correlates to how nice, new, or private the housing is. So at the cheapest, it's $2,800, and at the most expensive, it's $6,200. But it looks like in general, you're going to be paying between $3,000 to $5,000 per semester. That does not include meals. So at the University of Arizona, depending on what the sorority meal plan is like, it may be cheaper to actually be in the sorority and live in the house. My mother-in-law was in a sorority exactly for this reason. She joined a sorority, it wasn't really her thing, but she did it purely to save money on housing and food. It actually wasn't until researching this video that I found out that my mom and my mother-in-law were in different sororities at the same school just a few years apart. So that was fun. So it is possible that being a sorority and living in the house is cheaper at the University of Arizona than living in a dorm and getting a meal plan. This all depends on what dorm level you choose, what meal plan you use, and what meals are included in the sorority. But it's possible. The other school we're going to look at is Alabama. 44th in education.
Roll Tide.
40th in healthcare.
Roll Tide.
8th in LGBT unfriendliness.
Roll Tide.
5th in teen pregnancy.
Roll Tide.
1st in Greek life.
Roll Tide.
You cannot talk about Greek life and sororities without talking about the University of Alabama. They have the largest Greek life community in the country, with over 40% of their undergrad students involved in Greek life. This is the school that tends to dominate social media. They have an incredibly vast and frightening and competitive sorority rush system. University of Alabama is a decent school. It's fine. They are predominantly known as a party school. So it kind of makes sense that Greek life and a party school go hand in hand. So let's look at their fees. So just to register for Rush Week, it's going to be $375, and an early move-in fee to get into your dorm room during Rush Week is $185. So right off the bat, you are spending over $500 just to rush. When we look at member fees, once again, the meal plan was just not clear. So I'm not entirely clear on how many meals this includes. It could be all of them, which would be great. As a new member, you're paying for the meal plan and some one-time fees. So the average is about $4,800. If you're an active member and you're living in the house, the average is about $8,400. And if you're an active member living out of the house, the average is $4,200. So even if you're not living in the house, you're paying over $4,000 just to be in the sorority. And remember, all of these are per semester. So that's how much it costs to be in the sorority. But there are a lot of little hidden fees, especially if you're in a competitive Greek system, that can really add up. You might be expected to give big and little gifts. You might be expected to get certain rush outfits or buy certain items of clothing so that you can all match. Same thing when you're a member, you might have to buy certain items of clothing so you can all match. And at a lot of sororities, you're going to have to maintain a certain look And that can get expensive. Getting your hair dyed, getting your hair done, getting your nails done, buying outfits and jewelry and all the accessories that you need to look like that type of sorority girl. This can be incredibly expensive. And that's why a lot of people in sororities, especially the ones that you see on social media, come from money. So why do people join sororities? There are a million different reasons, and some people end up loving their time there, and some people end up regretting their time there. But there are 4 big main selling points that sororities push to say this is why you should join. We're going to look at all 4 of them and see, are these actually good reasons? The first one is sisterhood. If you join a sorority, you're being promised sisterhood, community, friendship, and when you're a new college student, especially if you're going somewhere far from home, this can be incredibly appealing, having a built-in system of friendship and community.
You always hear like, oh, the people you meet in college are, they're your bridesmaids at your wedding. Yes. Like, they are your best friends for life. That's what I thought I was going to get.
We're going to have weekly Love Island watch parties. We're going to watch The Bachelor together.
Here's the sad truth. Is everything that we both just said absolutely happens. The problem is that even though you are supposed to be a part of a sisterhood, it is extremely cliquey. A lot of people know people before they join the sorority.
I mean, it turns into the exact same thing as high school. If you were not in that group, you're not getting invited.
So you may get sisterhood and community and friendship if you join a sorority. If they let you in. If they let you stay in. I saw a lot of instances of girls who were kicked out of their sorority, and they said it can be quite traumatic. And that may sound dramatic on its face, but I get it. If you are accepted into this community that kind of takes over your entire life, it becomes your entire identity at college. Because of the event schedule and living in the house, it becomes your entire social circle, and then suddenly it's yanked away from you. That would be incredibly difficult. When you have a system like Rush, where you are trying to get into sorority and they are narrowing it down and you have to be invited back, there is built-in exclusion. And I'm just going to say it. Sororities seem a little culty. I'm not saying they're a cult. Something actually being a cult is a very serious accusation. Sororities are not cults. But they do have some culty vibes. There's a ton of secrecy around their initiation and their rituals and secret handshakes and secret processes and even secret rooms. And in a lot of cases, everyone ends up kind of looking the same.
Jessica Hagan, the Ohio State sophomore and member of Kappa Alpha Theta sorority, who was reported missing 10 days ago. After releasing a description of Jessica, authorities received over 13,000 tips, all of which have only led police to other students matching that exact description.
I saw on the news that they were looking for a nutritional sciences major who has side bangs and loves America's Next Top Model. So I called the police and I told them that I was fine.
Do sororities pick girls based on looks?
Yeah, so this is depressing. It was 100% based on looks. That was number 1.
Sororities are looking for girls who represent a certain way and who look a certain way. When they look at a girl, they ask themselves if they see her representing their chapter. If they don't want to represent their chapter as bigger, you're not getting a bid.
There are a lot of sororities, not all, but a lot of them, who are looking for white, thin, stylish, and preferably blonde women. Now, a little side story. One of my best friends and roommates in college was exactly what I just described. White, thin, stylish, and blonde. She was the runner-up in her state's Miss America pageant. She was gorgeous and talented and poised, but she was also kind and smart and creative and funny and a really good friend. So I want to be clear that you can be white and thin and stylish and blonde and still be a wonderful person. You can look like this and still be all those wonderful things. But not everyone can be white, thin, and blonde. So if that's what they're looking for, there are a lot of people who are simply not going to make the cut. So looks are just one more way to exclude people. And it's how you end up with sororities who look like they're full of clones. And part of being an exclusionary system means that there is a lack of diversity. Sororities are mostly white. Black women and other people of color have long been excluded, so a little over 100 years ago, Black women started creating their own sororities, and now there is an entire system of Black sororities run by Black women. But the fact is, statistically, this cannot be argued. Sororities are largely white, straight, and cis. So if you are not those things, it can be harder to get in at all, and once you're in, it can be very isolating.
But in terms of what I experienced, it was never overt racism like I feel the men had within fraternities, where I had seen so many offensive things that I tried to just like ignore so that I could have a decent college experience and not have to worry that people there probably hated my guts. But what was I gonna do? Like, I literally was one of very few people who were Black at this school, but also within my sorority.
I want to touch on hazing briefly. Hazing is a much larger problem with frats than it is with sororities, but it does still happen.
Levy Giles says her daughter told her she and 11 other pledges were forced into a car and driven to a home in Penn Hills, where they were beaten with paddles in a dark basement.
This former member shared this footage of what she called a traumatic event.
Just put oats on a plate and slap you really hard in the face. That was when my earring ripped out. You can kind of see that I'm upset.
But the worst of it coming on what she said they called Hell Night.
We were then put in a garage, blindfolded for 3 to 4 hours, forced to perform physical activity. It's disgusting.
Another example I found was from someone named Joanne at Penn State, and it says they would test us on one of the sororities' prayers or songs, and if we got it wrong, they would call us fat or ugly until we cried. So many of us cried in front of them. Again, these are organizations that are on a local chapter level being run by college girls. So national organizations can do as much as they want to say that there's no hazing or preventing hazing, but we have young women in large positions of power over other people who may not be the most responsible with it. So sororities promise sisterhood, but in a lot of sororities, that sisterhood is dependent on what you look like, how much money you have, and what color you are. So if you don't want to join a sorority, but you want sisterhood, friendship, community, get involved, join clubs, do intramural sports, join music groups, live in the dorms. My first friend at college, who I am still friends with today, was my neighbor in my dorm room. The next big selling point for sororities is service. Now, there are service sororities whose entire purpose is organized around charity, but those are different from the social sororities that we've been talking about. Service sororities and fraternities tend to be much more relaxed. They may not have this full rushing process. They may not have a house. They may even be co-ed. But social sororities do philanthropy. Chi Omega, the largest sorority in the country, has a long-standing partnership with Make-A-Wish. They have raised over $40 million and have performed over 1.7 million hours of service for Make-A-Wish. That is objectively awesome. Tri Delta, another large sorority organization, raises over $5.5 million per year for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. That's freaking great. So there is real charity work and real good being done by sororities every year. Now, how important is the service element to the sorority members? I think that really depends on the sorority. There are a lot of sororities where they're very proud of their service, but there are some sororities where it's simply a thing that you have to do. You are required to do a certain number of hours and you do it, and it's really not the point. So this one is kind of a mixed bag, but the fact is sororities do give a lot of money and a lot of hours to a lot of good causes. So we talked about sisterhood. We talked about service. Now we're going to talk about scholarship and career advancement. So this is the promise that sororities make, that you will do better academically if you're in a sorority, and that they will help you with your career after college. If you are a college student and you are someone who needs extra academic support or structure or accountability, a sorority might be a really good idea for you. Sororities generally have a GPA requirement, so their members have to maintain a certain GPA to stay in the sorority. So that really does prompt people to work on their academics more. Let's remember that out of all the things we're talking about today, colleges and universities are schools. The academics should be the focus. In America, we tend to forget that between college sports and sororities and frats and clubs and protests. These are schools. You should be learning things. The question that's often posed is, do sororities and fraternities actually improve the academics of their members? There are quite a few studies on this, and they all say different things. So there is no consensus. One study found that joining Greek life improved graduation rates, but lowered GPAs. Some studies find that students in Greek life overall have higher GPAs, but I don't know how fair of a comparison that is because there's a requirement to get in. So the students who join sororities and fraternities already have higher GPAs. So are those high GPAs caused by sororities and fraternities or just because that's who joins them? But the fact is, there is no consensus. We don't know if joining a sorority or a fraternity is going to raise your GPA. We simply don't know. But it does require you to maintain a certain GPA, and they do provide academic support. So they might have sisters who can tutor you in certain areas. They might have designated study hours or study sessions. So again, if you need more academic support, sorority may not be a bad idea for you. But sororities also sometimes forget that going to college is about going to school. I talked to one girl who got a $200 fine for missing an event, and they did not care that she was studying for a test the next morning at 8 a.m. If you think you need some extra academic support at school, you may be able to get that from a sorority, but you can also get it from on-campus tutoring. Join a study group. Talk to your academic advisor. They can set up a plan for you, or even get some friends together and be accountability buddies. You know, everybody stays accountable and everybody makes sure they stay on the plan. So sororities have potential to help you academically, but they also promise to help you with career advancement. And this one is definitely true. Sororities and fraternities are huge on networking. There are certain career tracks where you can absolutely get ahead in your career if you are a member of Greek life.
The networking is also a really good opportunity as well, because oftentimes houses will set up these networking opportunities for you. And then there's people who have been in your house that maybe can help you down the road land a job. Connections are everything in life.
Some of the most powerful people in the country, Fortune 500 CEOs, most of Congress, they were all in Greek life. So that one I will give to them. That is absolutely true. Especially in certain industries like business, sororities can help. But you don't have to join a social sorority. There are professional sororities and fraternities as well. These are ones focused on one particular industry. So you might have a business sorority or an engineering fraternity or a co-ed group for psychology students. So you don't have to join a social sorority. There are professional ones that are focused on one career track and can help you get opportunities and networking and internships and letters of recommendation and all that good stuff. And like service sororities and fraternities, professional sororities and fraternities tend to be more relaxed. There's a lot less fees, there's probably no house, they're often more co-ed, and they're more like a traditional club. So we've got sisterhood, we've got service, we've got scholarship and career advancement. The final fourth thing that sororities push as a selling point is social skills, life management, leadership, self-regulation, self-discipline. These are all things that they say being in a sorority can help you develop. I think that's probably true. I'm sure you can develop all those things in a sorority. You can also just develop all those things in college. You can develop them by just being a normal average college student or by joining clubs and organizations. These are also things that you can develop in high school. Things like speech and debate, student council, club leadership, FBLA, school news. These are all things that can help you develop those skills. And a lot of those same things are available in college. So yeah, sororities can help you learn all those things, but you don't need a sorority for those. Just get involved. And while sororities can teach you positive social skills, they can also really hurt you mentally. Insecurities, feeling isolated, feeling excluded, intense social schedules, and alcohol and drug abuse. That was one of the things my mom didn't like about being in a sorority. Aside from hating living in a house with 60 women, she hated that alcohol was such a huge part of their life. She wasn't really a big drinker, it wasn't her vibe, and she didn't like being around it all the time. This is not unique to just Greek life. There are a lot of college students who abuse alcohol and substances. That is a fact. But the social schedule and the social events that sororities require you to go to often center around alcohol. So it's kind of just adding fuel to the fire. So here's my 2 cents. If you want to join a sorority, do it. A lot of people love their time in sororities. A lot of people say they've developed some of lifelong friendships and they really cherish their time there. A lot of people don't. But a lot of people gain friendship and leadership and networking and fun. But I would recommend maybe trying to limit the social media noise around sororities. If you consume too much of that content, you may start to feel like getting into the sorority that you want, one of the good ones, requires you to change yourself or spend a lot of money. And you don't need to do that. You should find a sorority that wants you as you are. If you are white and thin and stylish and blonde and you want to go be in a sorority where everybody looks like you, do it. I guess that's fine. But don't feel like you have to do that. There are a lot of sororities who will take you just as you are. I very purposefully went to a small state school that did not have a Greek life. I didn't want to be around it. I didn't want to deal with it. So I just went to a school without it. And I made lifelong friends. And I developed those social skills, those leadership skills. And I got academic support and I got career advancement and I was able to do some service. So if you want to join a sorority, do it. But I really hope you look at sororities where not everyone looks and thinks like you. In the New York Times, Frank Bruni wrote, "Colleges should be cultivating the kind of sensibility that makes you a better citizen of a diverse and distressingly fractious society. How is that served by retreating into an exclusionary clique of people that look just like you?" I do think there's a real risk of joining a sorority and having that be your entire college experience. And you would miss out on so many of the things that are great about college. Learning different perspectives, meeting new people, seeing different ways of life from yours.
I'd like to join a sorority.
Are you pretty?
Does it matter?
We'll say it doesn't, but it really does.
I really want to broaden my horizons and meet new people.
Okay, you're gonna meet 200 different versions of the same girl.
I'm excited to have more freedom in college.
Right. We're gonna give you so many rules.
I want to be encouraged to study and grow.
If you don't go to 3 parties a week, we'll destroy your life.
So I would say, yes, I was somewhat wrong about sororities. The ones that we see on social media, I think those are kind of exactly what I think they were. But I think I was unaware of the existence of all the other types and all the other sororities that are really trying to do good and build community. And they do exist. In honor of today's topic, I made a donation to the UNCF. It's an organization that supports students at historically Black colleges and universities. This is the #1 group of students who are most often excluded from traditional Greek life, and this organization helps them with money to go to college, support while they're at college, and networking opportunities afterwards. Thank you so much for watching. I think this is going to end up being somewhat long, so if you stuck with it, I really appreciate it. This was a really fun topic to cover, but I want to hear what you guys think. Were you wrong about sororities? Am I wrong about sororities? Were you in one? Please tell me in the comments below. I am just kind of fascinated by this thing that I didn't experience and will never experience, but I want to hear all about it. I post a new video every week, and I hope to see you in the next one.